Hi there, welcome, I am MisterBo, and I didn't think I'd be making another video on Gotham Knights so soon after its reveal last week at the DC FanDome, but thanks to two brand new interviews, one from IGN and one from GameSpot, we actually have a lot of brand new information that wasn't revealed at the DC FanDome, which I think will please a lot of people, and maybe those who weren't too keen on what they saw. Hopefully this information should reassure them. Now I will leave a link in the description below to the articles so you can go and read them for yourself, but I'm going to be picking out little bits of information which I think are relevant and are kind of the main things that people want to talk about. So let's start off with how this game actually plays, starting with the combat. So they say they've gone through and iterated on control schemes quite a bit over the course of the whole project, but it'll be comfortable to people who are familiar with third-person brawler type experiences. So if you've played the previous Arkham games, this should hopefully feel right at home for you. Obviously it's not going to be exactly the same, but it should still have that main core feeling to it, with obviously the new elements they're adding onto it. Now one of the main concerns people had after seeing the reveal and all the leveling system and the RPG elements was, is this just going to be a games as a service game? Because we've seen that with other games and it hasn't gone too well. So WB Montreal say this is very much not designed as a games as a service. There is an ability tree which is different for each of the characters, and then there's gear that you craft and so choices that you're going to be making, but that does not mean that this is games as a service. They've confirmed that if you want to play this on your own, you can do, and you don't have to be connected to the internet. You can be offline on your own playing this like any other Batman Arkham game, which I think should be a sigh of relief for most people. Another awesome piece of information we learned is that you can play as just one character if you want. Obviously you have all four characters, that being Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing and Red Hood, but if you don't want to switch between those characters as you play through the story, you don't have to. You can gravitate towards one character and play them throughout the whole story. They do say things will slightly change if you're playing as different characters. For instance, interactions with different characters. If you're playing as Nightwing and you go up against someone who's maybe met Nightwing in the past, there'll be a different interaction to where if you were playing as Batgirl. However, the main narrative won't be affected by who you play as. It is also being confirmed that if you want to play this game as two-player co-op, your partner can play as the same character you're playing as. So you could have two Batgirls, two Robins, two Red Hoods or two Nightwings playing through this game. It doesn't matter, which I think is a great thing. This game is an RPG, and if you've maybe spec'd up your Robin to be really cool and you're really liking his playstyle, and then your friend pops in with another high-level Robin, it would be a bit weird if one of you had to change to a lower-level character just so you could play together. They also say there's quite a lot of variety in terms of upgrading and customizing your character with ability trees. You can modify and upgrade both ranged weapons, melee weapons, and even your character's suit. And they say it actually remains quite robust throughout the entire game, and hopefully if you're playing with someone else and maybe you're playing as the same character, your two characters should hopefully play quite different to each other. They also talked a little bit about how customization of skins works in Gotham Knights as well. So you have your suit style, and they say that's the sort of skinning of your suit. They didn't want to turn it into just a random crazy quilt, so what they've done is they've got distinct suit looks, and within that there's the accessory variation that the players can tap into, and that way you get a chance to tweak it and make it exactly the way you like it. So there is going to be visual customization to your characters, which we do see in the trailer, and you can tweak and change little bits of that, but not to the extent where your character is going to be sticking out like a sore thumb and won't even resemble the original character. From there we can go on and talk a little bit about the actual map itself, Gotham. So I think one of the things people were a little bit worried about is the whole leveling system and being level gated out of areas in the map. So WB Montreal comes right out and says it is one open world city right from the start and there's no level gating whatsoever. So if you're someone like me and you like to explore the map straight from the get-go, you can go and do that and you won't have to worry about running into like a level 100 enemy and you only being like level 2. I'm sure there are going to be things implemented into the map to maybe stop you going from maybe endgame areas, like we've seen with previous Arkham games, both in Arkham City and in Arkham Knight, but that is good to know that there is no level gating. Now they also talked a little bit about how big Gotham is actually going to be in this game. They say in terms of size, they have 5 boroughs that are across several islands connected by bridges. It's a fairly big city, but it's also a very dense city. They really wanted to go and do a fully living and breathing Gotham City experience to players. It's not a city where the population is missing. They say, of course, it takes place at night, but there is a day and night cycle of sorts. You're going to be playing at nighttime, however, during the daytime, you're going to be in the Belfry and you're going to be busting and gearing up for the next night of crime. So you won't have crowds of people running around Gotham City, but you will have civilians, and we see that in the gameplay trailer. We can see some GCPD in a chase with someone, and we can see civilians just walking along the street as normal. And I think this is really cool to see because it is what people have been wanting since we had a city in the Arkham games. We were hoping we were going to maybe get civilians in Arkham Origins or even Arkham Knight. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but we are finally getting that here. It is a shame that we're not going to be able to play through Gotham during the daytime, but it is nice to see that there is technically a day and night cycle, and it's also confirmed that this game does indeed take place over several nights, which is a nice change from the previous games which have always only taken place over one night. Talking about those 5 boroughs though, we get some information about maybe how the Court of Owls are going to play into all of this. So WB Montreal are asked, how much does this game focus on the Court of Owls? You teased a load of other symbols and that kind of stuff. There's the thought that, oh, this is kind of like the Origin setup where a bunch of different factions are attacking, like the League of Assassins and that kind of stuff. Is it very much a Court of Owls story? WB Montreal then responds saying this. It's impossible for me to answer that question without giving away a bunch of stuff that I don't want to give away. However, they do say the Court of Owls is a really important foundational piece for the game because their connection to Gotham's history is part of how we made our Gotham. So our Gotham City is built upon these 5 boroughs, and each of the boroughs has a history. It's connected to different families. It's very much a Gotham City that has been built up historically, and so obviously that's one of the big things the Court of Owls gives us. So they don't directly give us the answer as to whether the Court of Owls is the main big bad here, but they do give us some teasers that we are going to be seeing other factions and families. And obviously all those symbols we saw earlier on in the year and even last year, a lot of people have deduced that maybe one of those is the League of Assassins, and maybe the other ones that people aren't quite sure what they are at the moment relate to the other families we're going to be seeing in this game. I think that's some pretty cool information, and I can't wait to learn more about it. Sticking on the subject of villains, they actually go into some pretty interesting information about what the villains are going to be doing in this game. So WB Montreal are asked, does not having Batman limit the kind of villains that you're able to pull into this game in any way? Obviously people tie Batman to Joker, but does that mean if there's no Batman, you can't have him or you can't have Hush show up? Can you have other major villains, or do they need to be a certain type of villain that can kind of be applied to the entire family? And the response is no. Actually, I don't think this gives us any limit on whatever we want, because those ones mentioned, they're not tied just to Batman, they're tied to Gotham. That's at the heart, that's the connected piece, and so yeah, the full answer is no, it doesn't limit it. They then follow up by saying, and I think one thing that's great is when Batman is gone, because of the weird relationship he has with his villains. They're also struggling to reinvent themselves. So you have the heroes that are going on their arc of evolution, and then the villains. I mean, part of what makes the villains that we're going to be showcasing is that they're also in a position where they have to adjust their approach and their agenda, and who they are as a consequence of losing their greatest nemesis. So you could have a villain like Hush show up, who obviously modeled themselves on Bruce Wayne, and now that Bruce Wayne is gone, what does someone like Hush do? I think it's going to be very interesting. The same goes for a character like the Riddler. His main goal is obviously to prove that he is smarter than the Bat, and when the Bat is gone, what does a character like the Riddler do? Does he just go ahead and challenge Batgirl and the rest of the Gotham Knights, or does he do something different? I am very intrigued to see what other villains they're going to be throwing into this game. I would like to see characters who maybe didn't quite get their time to shine in the Arkham series put into this game again, and maybe some characters we didn't even get to see at all in the Arkham series in this game as well. A couple that come to mind are obviously Hush, because we know how that ended in Arkham Knight. I'd like to see more of someone like Professor Pig. Maybe we could get a different take on Riddler challenges in this game. And I think it's always pretty cool to see someone like the Scarecrow, though they might not want to do him after him being the main antagonist kind of Arkham Knight. They might want to step away from him and hopefully the Joker for some time as well. I hope that we don't get the Joker in this game. And then the final thing to cover is, well, is Bruce Wayne, Batman, actually dead? They ask, Is he dead? And WB Montreal responds saying, he's dead. He is dead from the start of the game. He's not playable. The only characters that you can play as are Batgirl, Robin, Red Hood, and Nightwing. They're then asked, well, is he part of the Court of Owls in any way? And they respond saying, right, sure. No, we see all the theories, but yeah, no, he's dead. Now, of course, they could be lying. We kind of saw that with Arkham Knight, in which they kind of lied a little bit about the Arkham Knight and the fact that Joker wasn't going to be in the game. But I think I kind of believe them here. I think it would be kind of cool just to not have Batman in this game. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be upset with that, but I think WB Montreal Games has to try and carve their own path out here, something that isn't always going to be judged against the Arkham games, and I think this is definitely a way for them to do that. If he does end up showing up in this game, I'm not going to complain, and if he doesn't, then I'm also not going to complain, but I am very excited to see where this game goes in terms of story and which characters and villains are going to pop up along the way. So that will wrap it up for this video. Again, there's a ton more information to go over in these interviews. I will leave links to them in the description below. If I was to go over all of the information, we'd probably be here for about another 10 or 20 minutes. There's that much information about leveling systems with enemies, whether or not we might see more stories told in the Gotham Knights universe, and a lot more, so I highly recommend you go and check them out. So let me know in the comments below, were you someone who was a little bit skeptical about what they saw from the reveal, and some of this new information has helped reassure you that it isn't going to be a games as a service game like a lot of people were assuming? Or were you someone like me who is super excited from everything they saw at the reveal, and this new information just gets you even more excited? Again, let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, then click that like button because it helps get this video out there to more people. And if you aren't already, then make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be covering a lot more Gotham Knights in the future, as well as a ton of other games on the channel. You won't want to miss it. If you'd like to stay up to date with me, you can follow me over on Twitter at IamMisterBo or on Instagram at IamMisterBo. Links to both of those in the description below. Apart from all of that though, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully I will catch you in some of my future content, but until then, as always, make sure you take care. Bye bye.